Welcome to another episode of Mrs. K's very interesting, right, Alfie? Foods class. All right, so today, Miss K, we're teaching the kids how to cook with fruit. So we're making what we call a peach crumble bar. Keep in mind you don't have to use peach. You can use any fruit that you like. So if you like blueberries, strawberries, anything, and if you don't have fresh fruit, you could use frozen, and if you don't have frozen, you could use canned, whatever you like. Or if you didn't even want to make the first part where you're actually having to thicken something, you could use a pie filling in between. Before I teach you about that, we're gonna make a dough, or basically a crumble. Has anybody here ever had an apple crisp? Who loves the crisp topping and wish the whole thing was basically made out of the crisp? Me, right? So I always put triple the amount of crisp. Now, your recipe, this isn't one that I wrote, but it's really good, and we're gonna use this ratio. But usually in my own home, I have a specific ratio that I use to make my crisp. You can always add any spices like cinnamon or cloves or nutmeg that you want into it. You can also add nuts into it if you want. You can add anything you want, but basically it's a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio. So Mrs. K's fruit crisp, just the crisp part, ratio. And basically I always make this with no recipe, right? And if I know it's a 1-to-1-to-1-to-1 ratio, that means it's 1 part flour, 1 part brown sugar, 1 part butter, and 1 part oats. And you can increase or decrease with that ratio however you want. Up, down. If you're only making a small pan, you could do a half a cup, a half a cup, a half a cup, a half a cup. If you're making a massive one for a family gathering, you could do 3 cups, 3 cups, 3 cups, 3 cups. But if you always use that ratio, use a pastry blender, you mix everything together, it turns out really nice. If you enjoy cinnamon and you want to add it, you totally can. You enjoy cloves, you want to add it. You want pecans in there, you can totally add it. You can add or take away anything you want, but you don't actually need a recipe. You just need to know that's the ratio, 1-to-1-to-1-to-1. Now, for the purposes of today, we have a few things that we're going to learn. When you move to Foods 20, we're going to talk about thickening agents, soup, sauces. And today we're making a peach filling. So what we're going to do is we're going to thicken peaches. So I've already pureed my beautiful peaches in my Ninja cup. Okay, that sounds good. So I've already thickened my peaches, pureed my peaches. And then what I've got here is my water. So I've measured out water. So it's 85 mils water. I just poured it into this cup. And the recipe says 1.5 mils cornstarch, which cannot be correct. So instead we're going to use 15 with no point. So 15 mils of cornstarch. All right. Measuring spoons, where are you? I'll take anything. Oh, perfect. Look at that. Perfect. So I'm going to take 15 mils of cornstarch. Now, cornstarch is safe for a person who is allergic to gluten. And then basically what I do here is I stick this in my water mixture and I mix it together, right? And this cold water and cornstarch is called a slurry. The starch has to be added to water first. I can't just dump cornstarch into this peach mixture. It has to be first separated by water. Sometimes we use this method with things like gravy, right? Things like gravy, different sauces, etc. All right, and then we thicken it over the stove. So it also tells me I need 80 mils of sugar. That's quite a bit of sugar. That's fine. It's on the floor. It's all good. So you guys have your individual. So I got 80 mils of sugar here, so I'm going to put that in here. I'm going to, into my 80 mils of sugar, I'm going to add my peach mixture, my peach puree. And you can still have chunks and stuff in there. That's no problem. And then into here, I'm going to add my slurry, which is your cold water and your cornstarch mixed together. So this is what we call a thickening agent. So we're using this to thicken. Then we're going to put it over medium heat. Brooke, can you still see me? Oh wait, don't move it because other people will be in the video. So, and I don't want that. None of these videos are listed. They're all my own, they're all unlisted videos. They're privately mine just for the purposes of our teachings. So they do not go beyond here. All right, they're just for people who might be at home. All right, so I'm gonna clean up after myself. I'm gonna put these things in the sink. I am heating my peach mixture, and my wonderful helper, Shane, who you can't see, but he's so great, is gonna get a whisk, and he's gonna just give that a stir for me every now and again to make sure it doesn't burn to the bottom of the pot. Can I trust you? Thanks, Shane. He's so reliable. All right, so the next part is actually making the crumble. So Mrs. Strada has prepared pans for the crumble. They look like this. Now, when you prepare a pan, I'm just going to undo it. You grease the inside with, this is parchment paper. So you grease the inside. You could use Crisco, which is shortening, or you could use margarine. And then you press it in. Then you cut pieces of parchment perfectly to size. You press them into the pan like so. So you press it in. Okay, and then you have another one going this way so nothing gets stuck to the side. This is going to help us to ensure that our bar comes directly out of the pan nicely and then sits out on a cooling rack, and then you can cut it into pieces once it's cooled, right? So pan preparation is important. So 2 pieces of parchment, one going this way, one going this way, and you have what I call the miniature hammock. Okay, so I've got that. Beautiful. All right, so it says I've got my oven preheated. I've got my oven preheated, Shane, to 350. Thank you, Shane. And I have my pan prepped. I'm doing my filling. Shane is helping me out. He's so great. Whisk your flour, your baking soda, and everything together. So I'm going to use a small bowl here. I'm going to whisk my things together or stir them. In this case, sifting is really not helpful, just being that you're taking air out. So it says whisk together your flour, baking soda. So I've got 125 mils of flour. I only have a 1/4 cup, so if I need 125, I need two of these. So 1/4 cup is 60 mils. So 2 of these. Now 2 of these. Baking soda, just 1 mil of baking soda. Right, I've got my things all labeled here. And I've already lost one lid. Baking soda, 1 mil, which is 1/4 teaspoon. 1 mil. 1 mil of salt. Oops. I'm gonna open up my salt. Salt, 1 mil of salt, and then it tells you to give you 1 mil of cinnamon. Ooh, cinnamon, my favorite. My fave. Oh wow, we got a lot of things to put in here. 1 mil of cinnamon. $75 mils of brown sugar. So you got to think about how am I going to get to 75? What's the easiest way based on what I have? So if I use a 60 mil cup, nice. It was just water. 60 mil cup. You need to pack your brown sugar in, level off so it's nice and level. 60. And it says I need 75. So when your sugar comes out, it should retain its shape. And then basically in here, what we need to do is add another 15 of brown sugar. All right, so guys, we're not gonna be able to eat this today because we don't have enough time or ingredients to do it twice. So I've got 75 now in there. And with all of our sanitizing plus our theory. Good news though, there's another teacher in the school who gave me their master class membership code, so we might be able to actually look at some real famous chefs and bakers actually teaching things in their own kitchens. So I'm just mixing some of these things in here. We also need 125 mils of oats. Thank you to Mrs. Strada for measuring those for me so kindly. And then she tells me says all right. Mix in the egg and vanilla, then the oats. Margarine says add the brown sugar, butter, and stir until combined. So I'm gonna add the butter. Sometimes I add this using a pastry brush, or sorry, a pastry cutter, and sometimes not. So I'm gonna use my eggs. Shane is my hero. Look at him. He's a champ. Huh? I hear some peanut gallery comments coming from my left. My ears hurt. Okay, so I'm gonna put all my dirty dishes. You always clean up as you go, right? We wanna work in a clean environment, especially during these COVID conditions. Because when your teacher and all the students have to wear a mask to school, I mean, that's a DEFCON 5 kind of situation. Not ideal. All right, so get rid of everything you don't need. I'm gonna work this together using a wooden spoon. In my house, if I was at home, I often would, either use a pastry blender, so which we used when we did the biscuit method, or I might use my hand, knowing that I've washed my hands, done the whole 20 seconds, happy birthday to me, happy birthday to me, happy birthday, Mrs. Kowach, happy birthday to me. You want it to look like coarse crumbs, but you want it to be combined, so you kind of have to squish the butter in. It doesn't have to look like a cookie does, like fully moistened at all. It can be crumbly, that's fine. But it needs to be moistened just slightly by the butter. See, it's kind of looking crumbly. Okay. Has anybody here ever had a date square? Oh man, I love me a date square. So this is the kind of thing that's going on. Okay, so it's pretty crumbly, but moistened kind of all over. Now what I'm gonna do is it tells us to press half of the dough into the pan for the base, okay? So I'm gonna take my clean hands, my scalpel, clean washed hands, and press half of this mixture into the bottom, right? To make the bottom of the bar, okay? So I'm pressing it into the bottom. I almost sometimes like to do 2/3 on the bottom because that's really where the structure comes from, right? It has to hold everything up, and I'd like to put 1/3 on the top because if you're holding this, you don't want it to fall all over you, right? Okay, so I've got my mixture. Shayna, oh, she's thick. It's because Shayna's so good. All right, look, Shane was successful. He used a slurry to thicken the peaches. Alfie, Nadia, right? Isn't that amazing that cornstarch can do these things? It's amazing. You know what else is amazing? My patience for students who are on their phones while I'm doing this amazing demo. I'm amazing. Okay, so what do we know? How do we know when things are thickened? Basically, if you stick your spoon into this, it can coat the back of a spoon. Also, it's okay, don't worry. I was getting a signal that my bowl was in the way. It can coat the back of a spoon, right? So it can coat, right? All right. So it's a nice thickness. When you use cornstarch, often when you start to thicken something with cornstarch, it's cloudy. But when cornstarch thickens, it goes from cloudy to translucent. So it goes cloudy to clear. Now I'm going to use my my handy dandy rubber spatula, Alf, to put this peach business into the pan. Ooh, she's going in very nicely. Now I have a mini loaf pan at home, and if you were going to actually do something like this at home, I suggest you double the recipe we're currently doing to put it in a full-size loaf pan. Now keep in mind, you can add like nuts on top if you're a nutty person like Miss K, or just keep it how it is. Then we're going to bake it in an oven. So voila, a la peach bar. Okay, I'll add another part of the video when it comes out of the oven. Good luck. Ooh, Mrs. K's finished product. The peach crumble bar, see?